But riddle me this, riddle me that. When we get to these 2-hour Friday night specials, why doesn't AEW just do a 120-minute Battle of the Belts? I now have no leg to stand on because I went to say minutes and I said mittel. How the hell do I have this job? Anyway, let's not worry about that because it's absolutely pointless, and instead, let's get our wrestling dance on and get excited about some professional wrestling. Otherwise, what are we doing with our lives? But we did just have AEW Rampage, and we had Battle of the Belts 5, I believe. So let's take the finger of power and give the good bits an up, the bad bits a down. So indeed, we do start with Rampage, even though it was basically the same show, although our first match was Bryan Danielson and Jon Moxley taking on Top Flight. This was tremendous. I really wanted the Martins to win, even though that was never going to happen, but the greatest thing about them is that they totally maximise their minutes, and if we can find them some victories throughout 2023, I tell you they will have a banner year. It's the same with Mox and Bryan, but we all know that, and even before the bell run, Dante had done a dive, because he was like, damn you wrestling 2022, I wanted to be wrestling 2023, when Bryan Danielson also agreed, because he did a dive and took out everybody. I think Top Flight likes to feel like only they can do flippy-dippy-doo-dah moves, so they grabbed Bryan and they threw him into Barry Barricade as the bell rang. And it did mean for a little while that Dante and Darius were beating up Jon Moxley. That's pretty damn incredible. And he made the tag to Danielson, who went absolutely nuts. I mean, he just hit everything he could with strikes when he took Dante and put him on the top rope and tried to give him a Hurricane Rana when that Martin landed on his feet because he is an athlete. And then I think somebody decided, you know what, at this juncture we need a badass shot. So everybody looked at everybody else. He started to fight. This is really dumb for the Martins because it meant they were trying to go blow for blow with the Blackpool Combat Club. And as we know, this is their whole deal. So they murked him. I saw Darius go flying into a steel chair. When he was back in the ring, Bryan Danielson was just working him over like he was some kind of submission Sally. I mean, when that didn't work, he just battered the guy for a bit. When he tagged in Mox, he was like, oh man, I want to do some battering too. When he tagged back in Bryan, who said, oh sweet, let's do some more battering. And I was like, who do you think you are, you two? Some fish? It was all built into the hot tag because of course it was. And when Darius got this, it was like somebody had injected him with you have to do everything juice, because he went absolutely ballistic, but I can tell you he could wrestle. At one point it looked like he was going to take care of both members of the BCC. Bryan Danielson slapped him and booted him right in the face. And if he had pinned him and got the 1, 2, 3 there, I'd be like, yeah, I totally get it. Darius was mad that his hot tag had been ruined though, so he took a med pack and he started slapping Bryan Danielson too. And when Bryan ran at him, he ducked him, hit him with a Spanish fly. And I was like, well, that is just absolutely stupid. The craziest bit is when Jon Moxley was going to do some kind of suplex to both of them, and somehow one of them kind of flew in the air, and then he was bouncing off the other one when they took out both members of the Blackpool Combat Club. And that's the best explanation I could do, because it essentially was 2 + 2 = potato. It didn't make any sense. It all built to a big finish where Jon Moxley even hit a double axe handle to the outside, and that made me chuckle. When eventually Danielson did lock on the Regal stretch and they won the match. But as I always say when it comes to Top Flight, they never properly lose, because I always walk away thinking to myself, wow, what a couple of talents. So again, I keep my fingers crossed for their 12 months, giving it up. I was then made aware of a sign, and boy howdy are we getting creative. I mean, it's totally nuts because this sign counter is out of control, but somebody had actually brought a piece of card and they had written on it, I missed my wife's birthday. To get it up. Now, I don't know if that is the right thing you should do. You should probably love and cherish your wife and never take her for granted. But honestly, this put a massive smile on my face. I am going to give you an up for being a bad person, essentially, but hey ho, we live in very strange times. And look at this, it's already up to 6. And I know we are being way too self-gratifying. Sometimes it's nice to give yourself a pat on the back. Adam Page was then walking around the parking lot, I think, with some papers that basically said, hey, if you don't do anything for a few days, you can fight Jon Moxley. When he said, listen, no matter what happens, I am going to beat the crap out of you anyway, and I want this to be documented, even if I have to burn it onto VHS. He also said he's going to send a copy to Mox's house, because in the basement, that's where the BCC hang out, where they basically get all funky-dunky about MMA. So I was laughing, oh my gosh, where did that come from? Also, come on, it is 2023. I'm going to assume they at least have a DVD player. Hangman has found his feet with all of this again though, and honestly, not in my wildest dreams did I ever expect a VHS reference. So for that sentence alone, excuse me, I'm still very sick, I'm giving it up. Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter were then getting ready for their big tag team match next week, because they were taking on the Renegade twins. And this was cool as well, because we were told the twins are on a 3-match winning streak, so there were some stakes here. And do not forget they are called Robin Renegade and Charlotte Renegade, which are some of the greatest wrestling names you could ever hear. Also, this was nowhere near a squash. They got a load of offense in, and they looked pretty damn good. The crowd was absolutely wild on this evening though, so when Britt Baker did tag in, holy crap, it was like the most important person ever had come home, and she got this massive DMD chant. Pretty cool. Charlotte did eventually get the hot tag, and she hit a flatliner onto Hayter, and she hit a spine buster on Britt Baker, when she also busted out a fisherman suplex and got a 2. Baker was able to come back from that with a near fall on her own after a Falcon Arrow, and I was like, I wonder if that's a shot of Sheeda. When Charlotte got to her feet, she got destroyed. Because she was stuck between Jamie and Britt, who basically booted her in the face, gave her a massive lariat, kicked her again, probably said something insulting, when Britt noticed, wait a minute, she's bent over, so she ran in and she hit the curb stomp, and of course she won. I mean, it was never in doubt. So this was really solid, and I think it sets up next week quite well, and it reminds you that maybe we should keep an eye on these Renegade twins, which we should do, giving it up. The House of Black then cut a promo. They are really, really weird people, but also badasses. I think Malachi Black's main beef is that Eddie Kingston is not the Eddie Kingston he remembers, because this version is going on about contracts and is going on about rules, whereas the violent person we used to know. And if anybody is to blame, it's that damn Ortiz. Julia Hart also weighed in that they are there to help Eddie and once again put the blame on Ortiz. So seriously, we are just driving a wedge here, and I'm a bit worried it's going to work. It also kind of felt like the House of Black is trying to recruit Eddie Kingston, which is very interesting. And later on, we did cut to Eddie and Ortiz, who are not getting on at all, but there is going to be a match next week on Rampage. So given we haven't had that many segments for this feud, I do find myself very interestingly intrigued. I'm giving it up. Pero Peligroso was then here, or Preston Vance, or Harry Kane, take your pick. Now, he was taken on Sonico, so straight away let's get rid of that O and just call him Sonic, because that's far more fun. And he must have been from the area, because holy smokes, this guy was treated like a hero. It didn't work for him though, because within 30 seconds, he got hit with the discus lariat, and he lost. Where was Tails? Sonic was also a masked man though, so of course Peligroso ripped that off and dragged him up the rampway to get Mega Heat. And he did get that here. I know I keep going on about this every single week, but I think there's something to it. And if we keep going and we keep building these bricks, I actually think it may click. Also, we should do a Sonic feud, because that would be funny, giving it up. We then learned that of all people, after Dynamite, Mike Bennett and the Kingdom had gone up to Darby Allin and gone, Darby Allin, you're an absolute Fruit Loop. So now they're main eventing Rampage. I suppose, why not? Allin did walk out here battered and bruised, because of course he did. He was almost dead on Wednesday and he's already having another fight. So Mike Bennett was like, all right, well, I'm just going to focus on your knees. Because if you're about to have a match with someone and they're walking like this, yeah, go after their legs. Allin was also hurled into Barry Barricade in the early going. And as always, there's no trick to this. It's just a man going into some steel. I don't think I'm ever going to be able to get over it. Darby Allin wasn't able to fight back when he went for his high-speed dive, but he was dealing with everything here, because Matt Taven just pushed his friend out the way, meaning Darby went into him instead, so once again he got beaten up again, including taking this Russian leg sweep off the ring apron to the floor. And that just looked like it broke everyone. That felt like writing a letter. Don't know what it was going to say, but I was freaking out. There's also a bunch of other crazy spots in this, including when Darby was on the front foot, he went to the outside and he got a chair and he put Bennett in it when he went to the top rope and he hit a shotgun drop kick. That was gibberish. He hit a shotgun drop kick. Now, not only did it look like it really hurt Bennett, but of course Darby just went right into the floor. Once again, I was like, can someone just give this guy a hug? I think he needs it. He's then going to go for the coffin drop, but Maria was interfering and covering her man. And then there was a bunch of fracas, which allowed Matt Taven to give Allin a smack when Bennett hit the pile driver. And that was actually quite a good near fall. Now, if Darby hadn't have won the TNT title only 2 days ago, maybe I would have bought it. But I can't lie, I didn't. So of course it was never going to happen. So instead, Darby Allin hit this terrifying looking code red from the top. He eventually hit the coffin drop. He got the 1, 2, 3. but he is just so damn over, and I actually thought this exceeded expectations. It was very, very good, and it's getting it up. Battle of the Belts 5 then did begin, and I was a bit like, well, who the hell is going to start this off and be able to carry on that momentum? But it was the no-holds-barred AEW Tag Team title match between the Acclaimed, Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal, and you just got to give it a round of applause. I take back everything I said about Jeff a couple of months ago. I don't know what I'm talking about. This may be the most fun match I've seen in ages, and that's because they designed it to be. Max Caster also had a terrific rap, as he always does, where he said that Jeff Jarrett was a bigger slight on the wrestling business than Vince McMahon, and you can imagine that reaction. And then every other thing we did in the ring was just so meticulously thought out. And at one point, the Acclaimed hit a double suplex, and Max Caster was so happy about that. He just flew out the ring, he slapped Satnam Singh, and then he got back in again before Satnam even knew what had happened. And when he eventually got in there with Jeff Jarrett, he hit the angle slam and then pretended to take his singlet off, but he wasn't even wearing a singlet. And of course, he followed this up with the ankle lock. I'm sorry, I just love this stuff too much. Somebody fire me out of a cannon. Just when I didn't think he could get any better either, Jeff Jarrett was about to tap out when Jay Lethal went to the top rope and he surveyed the situation and he must have thought, well, it is a no-holds-barred match. Why should I risk hitting my own partner? And he hit the elbow onto the referee. Now, that may sound quite like it was nothing. It was not. It was so damn funny. I laughed out loud, and this match, the best thing I've ever seen in my life. Billy Gunn then lost it, and he was clotheslining Jeff Jarrett, but Satnam Singh didn't like that, so he was in there too, and other people being thrown into barricade. When all of a sudden the Giant grabbed both of the Acclaimed, he gave them a double suplex, when he too looked at the referee and thought, well, I don't like you much. And he chokeslammed him as well. This was after Daddy Ass had smashed him in the head with the guitar as well, so he was just pitched like an absolute warrior. And at this point, Sonjay Dutt thought to himself, well, surely if I wear a referee's top, I'm the referee. So he put the referee's top on. This is when I think Jeff Jarrett hit the stroke, I can't even remember. But just as Sonjay was about to hit the 3, no, Jay Lethal, I'm all over the place. Jay Lethal hit the lethal injection. Sonjay's about to hit the 3. When Aubrey Edwards was there, she stopped him, she broke the pencil, they got into it, and the whole time the fans were going crazy. And I couldn't help it either, I went crazy too. This is when Bowens hit the arrival and Caster hit the mic drop and they got the 1, 2, 3. So they are still the new AEW champions, and I mean this from the bottom of my tootsie toes. If every single feud has this kind of a build and this kind of a payoff, I will never complain about wrestling again. I mean, I rarely do because I'm a positive Pete, but I will make it a rule. It was just so well put together from start to finish, and now I look back on it and I start to cough because I'm sick. Tremendous. Great, great stuff, and it is getting an up, and it is a damn strong up. Will Hobbs was then talking about his book and how he's going to use that to destroy people, and we did get everything between Eddie Kingston and Ortiz that we talked about earlier, so technically, that conversation was on a different show, but also it really, really wasn't. It was then time for Jade Cargill versus Skye Blue for the TBS Championship, and I couldn't help but be this guy here, because I was like, I know Skye Blue has been involved in all of this, but what the hell did she do to earn herself a championship opportunity? And why isn't it Red Velvet? So it is a down because there's no rhyme or reason to any of this. And while there are good bits to the story in general, there's also other ones that leave me totally baffled. And it could be on me. I am a stupid person, but hey ho, sometimes you need to cater to stupid people, so it's getting it down. Otherwise though, what we did get here was once again far better than I was expecting. Because not only did Jade Cargill have her working shoes on, but Skye Blue clearly was like, oh yeah? You want to see what I can do? Fine, fine, fine. I mean, she was just reversing every single one of Jade's moves into the most devastating move in all of sports entertainment. If I actually believed that Cargill was going to lose anytime soon, I would have bit. Sadly, I didn't. I mean, Skye got slammed into the entrance rampway at one point, which was so disgusting. Jade got back in the ring and was like, well, you may as well can her out, ref, because she's not going to get back to that. And during this is when Red Velvet walked out, and she just looked at Jade Cargill, which means things are about to get serious. Blue did still make it in just because she was about to lose, which is when Cargill just ran across the ring, and she hit her with a pump kick so hard, I fell down. That was the impact. Velvet then started making more noise because she got into it later grey and she thumped her one, so I suppose we can do that match before we do get to Jade Cargill versus Red Velvet. When back in the ring, holy smokes, Skye Blue hit this amazing code blue for a near fall. And once again, I really wanted to believe, but I just couldn't. The absolute best bit, and maybe the best bit over both shows though, when it comes to spots, is that this is when Skye went to do a springboard off the ropes. Cargill caught her, and she just handled her like she was nothing. I mean, she was throwing her up, down, left, right, all around the place. When she transitioned into the jaded position, she hit it, which looked totally devastating, and she got the 3. And honestly, you've got to give a round of applause for that. It looked flubbing excellent. You can't just do that either. It takes real skill and real strength, so more power to both of them. And I am going to give this an up. You should go out of your way to see it. You will be pleasantly surprised. The firm then told Jungle Boy and Hook that they are going to beat them up in a tag team match next week, when we also learned on next week's episode of Rampage, it is Ty Conte and Anna JS taking on Ruby Soho, and Willow Nightingale in a no-holds-barred match. I thought about it and I was like, yeah, that's going to be ace. It all meant our main event was for the All-Atlantic Championship, and I just want to say kudos to Orange Cassidy and to Kip Sabian, because they have done a great job over the last few weeks building to this, to the point, the smallest part of me, the most important part, was like, I think Kip could actually win here, which meant I was in. Sabian was trying to outmine the piece of fruit to begin with, because he did put his sunglasses on, just started walking around like he was Orange Cassidy when he threw them on the floor. When it was revealed, not only was Penelope Ford in his corner, but dun dun dun, so was the bunny. These three then mocked the best friends because they did their own hug, and Danhausen didn't like this at all, so he went to curse Kip Sabian, who clearly had already come up with a plan for this. He bit Danhausen's finger. Sabian was all over this too, because when Orange Cassidy went to do a DDT on the outside, he reversed it and just wrecked this guy's neck. And that's when I started to get really worried. I was like, wait a minute, you can't do anything without a neck. Somebody save him. He wanted to follow this up with a cannonball, which he did successfully once. But when he went for the second, Cassidy moved out the way, and Sabian just destroyed himself. And this is when they climbed to the top, and my gosh, they were tussling up there for ages, when Orange was able to hit the superplex. But just when he was gonna go for the orange punch, that bunny grabbed his foot, and I was like, you asshole. Danhausen saw this though, so he told the referee, like, oh man, you gotta get rid of her, which she did do. But this was a terrible idea, because by the time the bunny had been ejected, do you know who came out in her place? That's right, given the time of day, all the shops were closed. So it was the Butcher and the Blade. Danhausen tried to stop them, but of course he got absolutely killed, and they got out some chairs to watch this thing. And I was like, yeah, like they're just going to watch. When back in the ring, Kip Sabian hit this bizarre inverted Falcon Arrow thing and got a 2. It was pretty good. The Butcher and the Blade, surprise, surprise, were then ready to pounce when the best friends came out, and they all got into it. When back in the ring, Cassidy went for a DDT when Sabian somehow reversed it into a neck breaker, and we've already talked about the neck. Sabian was then able to hit an orange punch of his own, but I can only presume Cassidy has trained himself against this, because all of a sudden, he just went super duper nuts, and he hits the beach break, but he only got a 2. Orange totally lost it at this point. He started beating Kip Sabian up in the corner, and for some reason the referee kept trying to stop him, and I was like, why? It's a wrestling match, he's allowed to do it. And Cassidy got so mad, he even shoved the ref, and I was like, well, no, you better not do that. It was a wonderful tease though, because it led you to believe that we were going to get a screw job, because from nowhere, Kip Sabian hit the most devastating move in all of sports entertainment, the surprise roll-up, but he only got a near fall. That was well done. It did allow Orange Cassidy from nowhere to hit 2 orange punches. He got the 1, 2, 3 and retained his belt. And this was such a terrific end to 2 shows that had given us a bunch of terrific matches. I am giving it an up. Which did indeed bring us to the end of 120 minutes of AEW action, and I am going to give it an up. I wouldn't say there's anything night and day that you have to check out here, but overall, what a well put together couple of hours. Now please do leave a comment below and let me know what you thought about last night's AEW Rampage and Battle of the Belts. Like the video, share the video and subscribe. Head over to WhatCulture.com where you can read yourself some articles, check out SmackDown Ups and Downs, which should be live now, and we're on social media. We'd love a follow. We're sad. My name's over WhatCulture. Happy New Year. Happy 2023. We're not saying that anymore because we've got to get on with it. Have a lovely weekend. See you soon.